Welcome to This Explainer. I'm so thrilled you're here with us today because, well, we're going to completely dismantle and reconstruct exactly how we look at failure. We all face it, we all fear it, but very few of us actually know how to use it. So let's dive right into the source material. We're looking at the absolutely unbelievable underdog story of Jack Ma, the boy who failed hundreds of times before changing the world. This is definitely not your standard tale of a child prodigy destined for greatness. No, this is a literal masterclass in grit. I want you to really picture a scenario for a second. What happens to a person who gets rejected over 30 times? I mean, seriously, if you apply for something, put yourself out there, and just get a door slammed in your face time and time again, what does that actually do to you? For most of us, human nature kicks in, right? We lose hope, we start to complain, we kind of start to believe that maybe the universe is just telling us to stop trying. But as you'll see throughout this explainer, there is a completely different way to process rejection. Section 1. An ordinary boy in Hangzhou. The academic struggle. The source material grounds us in a really relatable reality. Jack Ma grew up in a humble family in Hangzhou, China, and honestly, he was far from the smartest kid in his class. He actually failed his primary school exams twice. Then he failed his middle school exams 3 times. And when he finally set his sights on university, he failed the rigorous entrance exam twice before eventually getting in. Just imagine the heavy pressure and the societal stigma of constantly falling behind your peers. The odds were stacked so heavily against him right from the get-go. Section 2. A masterclass in rejection. Entering the professional world. So, moving on from the classroom, graduating didn't just magically solve all his problems. Actually, Jack Ma went out and applied for nearly 30 different jobs, and every single one of them rejected him. 30 attempts, 30 no's. When you're trying to kickstart your career and you face that level of resistance, it's a crucible. It's the kind of thing that will either completely break your spirit or forge something unbreakable. And this next story brilliantly illustrates just how isolated he must have felt in all those failures. This is actually one of the most famous incidents from the source text. When KFC first opened a restaurant in his city, 24 people rushed to apply for a job. Out of those 24 people, 23 got selected. Let that sink in for a second. 23 people walked away with a job. Jack Ma was the single, solitary person who was rejected. The sheer, almost absurd isolation of being the one person out of 24 who wasn't considered good enough, man, that is a heavy burden for anyone to carry. And the hits just kept coming. He even applied to join the local police force, only to receive a blunt, totally unapologetic answer. You are not suitable. 4 words that just cut right to the core of a person's confidence. At this point, the narrative tension in his life is at its absolute lowest, most defeating point. It's exactly the moment where, as the text points out, most people would have simply lost hope and walked away. Section 3. The power of persistence. The internal shift. But right here is where the story completely pivots. Instead of complaining, he changed his entire perspective by asking himself a super powerful question. What can I learn from every failure? He proactively chose a different path. For instance, he really wanted to learn English. He didn't have access to fancy tutors or resources, so what did he do? He began learning by talking to foreign tourists every single morning for years. He took the initiative. And this shows a massive internal shift from being a victim of circumstance to becoming an active participant in his own growth. His situation back then can be summed up perfectly by a distinct lack of traditional advantages. I mean, he had absolutely no money, no powerful relatives to open doors for him, and pretty poor academic marks. Most people view those things as the mandatory ingredients for success, but he had one ultimate, undeniable superpower that outweighed all those negatives: relentless persistence. He had something way stronger than wealth or connections.
Section 4. Building the Alibaba Empire. Ignoring the naysayers.
Years later, the internet arrived in China, and Jack Ma spotted a massive opportunity. But did the world suddenly wake up and recognize his genius? Absolutely not. People literally laughed at his idea. They looked at him, chuckled, and asked, "Who will buy things online?" They dismissed him entirely. But by this point, he was immune to rejection. He was so used to people telling him he wasn't suitable that he just continued anyway, completely unfazed by all the skepticism. And here is the triumph. He started a small company in his apartment with just a few friends. And through that same unshakable persistence, that tiny apartment venture grew into the Alibaba Group, which is now one of the world's largest e-commerce companies. Today, Jack Ma is known all across the globe. But here is the thing you absolutely have to remember. He isn't known because he never failed. He is known because he never, ever stopped trying. Section 5, Life Lessons for Your Future. Decoding the elixir. So let's see how this applies directly to you. The source material cleanly breaks down 5 actionable life lessons, which are especially great for teenagers and students feeling the intense pressure of exams and competitions. Let's quickly walk through these because they are incredibly powerful. Number 1, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a core part of it. It's a stepping stone. Number 2, rejection does not define your future. Being the one guy rejected at KFC certainly didn't define Jack Ma. Number 3, skills can be learned through consistent effort, just like how we learned English by chatting with tourists every morning. Number 4, believe in your vision even if others laugh at you. And finally, number 5, persistence beats talent when talent gives up. If you're an ordinary student facing extraordinary pressure, these 5 points, they are your ultimate blueprint for resilience. I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful quote from Jack Ma himself. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. Every single exam you fail, every competition you lose, every rejection you face is simply preparing you for something bigger. Your current marks do not decide your destiny. Your attitude toward failure does. True winners aren't the people who never fail, they're simply the people who never quit. So, we've traced the timeline, and we've uncovered the mindset of a man who turned endless rejection into a literal global empire. And that brings us to this final, crucial question. The next time you face a rejection, when you get that bad grade or you get turned down for that big opportunity, will you quit or will you look for the lesson? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.